The smell of bleach and dirty dishes assaulted my nose as I stood in the doorway of the industrial kitchen, watching my twins, Alex and Sophie, perched on overturned buckets next to the dishwashing station. Their plates balanced precariously on a metal prep table, while around them, kitchen staff worked frantically during the dinner rush. The dining room is fully booked, Isabella Romano had announced when we arrived for what was supposed to be a celebratory dinner for the twins' school awards. Her lips curved into a practiced smile. This is the only space available, unless you prefer to come back another time. She knew very well we couldn't get another reservation. Her restaurant, the Golden Laurel, had a 6-month waiting list. Not that she'd ever let us book a proper table anyway. "Mama," Sophie whispered, trying to cut her Wagyu beef with a plastic fork, "why can't we eat with the other people?" Isabella's voice cut through the kitchen noise like a sharp knife. "Well, dear, perhaps if your mother had taught you proper etiquette instead of letting you eat like savages, you could dine in civilized company. 6 years of these digs about my parenting, my background, my very existence. 6 years of watching her treat my children as if they were somehow contaminating her precious restaurant's reputation. They eat like untrained puppies," I'd once overheard her telling a food critic. "But what can you expect? Their mother probably thinks fine dining means extra ketchup." Alex tugged at my sleeve. "The dishwasher is splashing my food. Just eat quickly, sweetheart." I helped him move his plate away from the spray. "We need to be ready for the reopening ceremony." "Ready to serve, you mean," Isabella muttered, adjusting her pristine chef's coat. "Do try to keep them from touching anything important. They're not used to quality." The way she said quality made it sound like a private club my family could never join. "They'll be fine," I said firmly. "They know how to behave in a restaurant." "Do they? Public school children tend to be rather unpolished." I bit back my response. Soon, very soon, she would learn exactly what this public school teacher had been up to while she was busy collecting Michelin stars and contempt. "We need to get ready, Isabella," I reminded her. "The reopening ceremony starts in an hour." Her grand reopening, the crowning achievement of her culinary career. The night when all of high society would gather to praise her genius as she unveiled her restaurant's multi-million-dollar renovation. This year would mark her 15th anniversary as executive chef and owner. Yes, she waved dismissively. "Though I don't know why you're attending. The ticket price alone." "Marcus would have wanted us there," I said quietly. That shut her up as it always did. Her precious son, the restaurateur who disappointed her by marrying a teacher, then devastated her by dying and leaving his insurance money to us instead of her. What she didn't know was that Marcus had left us much more than that. "Very well," she sniffed. "But do something about their clothes. I can't have them looking like, well, like what we were. Common, ordinary, beneath her." After she clicked away in her designer clogs, I helped the twins change into their ceremony outfits, custom-made suits that would make Isabella choke if she knew we owned them. "Remember what Daddy used to say?" I asked as I straightened Sophie's bow tie. They nodded in unison. "Good food feeds the stomach, but kindness feeds the soul." "That's right, and tonight we're going to serve up quite a feast." The twins exchanged knowing looks. They'd seen the papers I'd signed last month, had watched me in late-night meetings with the restaurant's investors. They might be 8, but they weren't stupid. "Will Grandma be angry?" Alex asked, fidgeting with his cufflinks. "Grandma will be served a taste of her own cooking," I assured him. Sometimes people need to sample what they've been dishing out to others. At the restaurant's grand dining room, an hour later, Isabella was in her element. She floated between tables, accepting compliments about her culinary genius, her exquisite taste, her 15 years of elevating local cuisine. If only they knew how she really treated those she considered beneath her. "Sarah, darling," she air-kissed my cheeks when we entered. "I'm shocked you could afford the tickets, and the children, well, they clean up adequately." The twins stood straight-backed, their matching outfits probably worth more than Isabella thought I made in a month. She didn't recognize the designer. She'd never expect us to own them. "We wouldn't miss it," I smiled. "Especially not tonight's announcements." Her perfectly groomed eyebrows drew together. "Announcements? The only announcement is my reopening speech." "Oh? The board didn't tell you about the ownership changes?" For a fraction of a second, panic flashed across her Botoxed features. "What ownership changes?" I'm sure it will all be clear during your speech, I said smoothly. The twins and I have front row seats. Front row? Those are for VIP guests only. Yes, I agreed. They are. Leaving her sputtering, I guided Alex and Sophie to our table, directly in front of the podium where Isabella would soon deliver her speech. The speech she'd spent months preparing, detailing her legacy in fine dining. A legacy that was about to get a new recipe. Mrs. Carter, Thomas, the maitre d', approached with a folder. Everything's prepared for the announcement. Isabella, across the room, watched this exchange with growing confusion. She'd never seen Thomas bring me documents before. Never seen me sign anything official. Never imagined I could. Perfect. I took the folder and a security footage. Queued up and ready. The twins squeezed my hands under the table. They knew what was coming. We discussed it as a family, just as Marcus and I had planned it before his death. Will we have to eat in the kitchen again? Sophie whispered. No, sweetheart, I promised. After tonight, everyone will eat in the dining room, or no one will. Isabella stepped up to the podium, ready to begin her carefully crafted speech about her dedication to culinary excellence. She had no idea she was about to learn that treating people like kitchen scraps comes with a very bitter aftertaste. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people how powerful you are. It's letting them serve themselves their just desserts. Isabella tapped the crystal wine glass, its ring echoing through the elegantly renovated dining room. Behind her, a massive screen waited to display her curated video about the Golden Laurel's journey to excellence. Distinguished guests, she began, her voice dripping with cultivated warmth. Welcome to our grand reopening. As we celebrate 15 years of culinary artistry, right on cue, the screen behind her flickered. Instead of her planned presentation, security footage began playing silently. There she was, forcing my children to eat in the kitchen, her cruel words captioned for all to see. Isabella, focused on her notes, didn't notice at first, but the gasps from the diners made her turn around. What is this? She demanded. Turn that off immediately. Please continue, Isabella. I stood up. Tell us more about your dedication to hospitality. The footage changed to other incidents. Isabella mocking customers who ordered incorrectly, forcing families with children to wait hours for tables that never materialized, making my twins use plastic utensils because they weren't worthy of her fine silverware. This is, she sputtered. Poor service, I suggested, class discrimination, or just another day at the Golden Laurel. The room erupted in whispers. Several food critics stood up, their notebooks already out. I demand to know who authorized this. Isabella's voice cracked. That would be me. I walked to the podium. The new owner of the Golden Laurel. The silence that followed was as thick as her famous bechamel sauce. Isabella's face went from flushed to pale in seconds. Impossible, she breathed. You're nothing. A teacher Marcus married against my wishes. A teacher who helped her husband invest very wisely, I corrected. While you were collecting stars, Isabella, Marcus, and I were collecting something more valuable, proof of how you really treat people. Marcus would never. Marcus did. Every investment, every board appointment, every detail was planned before his death. He just hoped you'd learn compassion on your own first. The twins joined me at the podium, standing tall despite the room's attention. Sophie spoke first. Daddy said good food should make people happy, not scared. Alex added, and he said restaurants are for everyone who loves food, not just rich people. Isabella staggered back as if her words were physical blows. The footage behind her showed her latest cruelty, playing on an endless loop. As the new owner, I continued, I'm making immediate changes. First, the kitchen will no longer be a punishment zone. It will be a place of respect and learning. Several staff members nodded vigorously. Second, any form of discrimination against guests or staff will result in immediate termination. No exceptions. You can't. Isabella started. I can and I am. Your position as executive chef is terminated, effective immediately. However, I paused. You're welcome to apply for our new community cooking program, teaching children from public schools about cuisine. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Some guests actually applauded. Thomas, I called to the maitre d', please escort Chef Romano to her office to collect her personal belongings. Security will supervise. Isabella stood frozen, her culinary empire crumbling around her designer clogs. "Why?" she whispered. "Why humiliate me like this?" "The same reason you humiliated my children, to teach a lesson about dignity." I met her eyes. "The difference is, they didn't deserve their humiliation. You cooked this up yourself." One of her socialite friends tried to intervene. "This is outrageous. Isabella has 3 Michelin stars and 0 stars in humanity." I cut in. "Would you like to see more footage? Perhaps when she made a child cry for ordering pasta well done." The woman sat down quickly. Thomas appeared with a box for Isabella's belongings. "Your keys and recipes, chef." Her hands shook as she removed them from her designer bag. "And if I refuse to leave quietly, then the full security footage goes to every food critic in the country." I smiled. "I'm sure they'd love to review your unique approach to customer service." She sank into a chair, 15 years of superiority finally soaring like spoiled cream. Marcus knew. All this time, he knew what I was becoming. He knew, I confirmed. He just hoped he'd remember that great food should bring people together, not tear them apart. Alex tugged at my sleeve. "Can we eat in the dining room now, Mama? The kitchen smells like soap." "Yes, sweetheart. We'll eat wherever we want." I turned to the assembled guests. "Thank you all for coming. The Golden Laurel's new mission statement and service policies will be distributed shortly. We hope you'll continue dining with us, where everyone is welcome at our table." Behind us, Isabella began gathering her belongings, her perfect world reduced to a cardboard box of recipes that suddenly tasted like ashes. Sometimes the best lessons about hospitality come from those we refused to serve. As we left, Sophie looked back at her grandmother. "Will she be okay, Mama?" "That depends on what she learns from this," I answered honestly. Sometimes people need to lose their stars to find their humanity. And sometimes I thought, watching Isabella clutch her empty recipe book, the most important ingredient in any kitchen isn't skill, it's heart. The transformation of both the Golden Laurel and Isabella Romano over the next 6 months surprised everyone, especially those who had witnessed her fall from culinary grace. Initially, Isabella retreated to her home kitchen, emerging only to criticize our new common approach in food blogs and on social media. But when prestigious cooking shows and food magazines began distancing themselves from her now viral behavior, she found herself facing an unfamiliar taste: irrelevance. The turning point came through, of all things, a failed soufflé. "I need help," she called one evening, her voice missing its usual arrogance. "The children's cooking class at the community center. They want to learn my chocolate soufflé." I could have refused. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I said, "Come tomorrow morning, before service. Show them yourself." The Isabella who arrived at 7 a.m. was barely recognizable. Her chef's coat was plain, her usual perfect makeup absent, and her eyes held something I had never seen before: uncertainty. Our new head chef, Miguel, someone Isabella would once have dismissed as kitchen help, watched her demonstrate the soufflé technique to wide-eyed children. "You have to be gentle," she explained, her hands moving with practiced grace. "Treat the ingredients with respect, like you would treat people." The irony of her words wasn't lost on anyone. What followed was what the staff called the humble pay season. The woman who once wouldn't let common children into her dining room spent weekends teaching kids how to make pasta from scratch and bake their first bread. "Your grandmother showed me how to make macarons today," Sophie told her friends. She didn't even mind when we got flour everywhere. The twins, showing more forgiveness than their grandmother ever had, started spending Saturday mornings in the teaching kitchen. They would experiment with recipes, making glorious messes, while Isabella worked beside them. One day, I overheard Alex ask her, "Why didn't you want us in your restaurant before, Grandma?" Isabella set down her whisk, hands trembling. "Because I forgot the most important ingredient," she admitted softly: love. I was so focused on perfection that I forgot food is about bringing joy, not judgment. "Like Daddy's pancakes?" "Yes," she smiled genuinely. "Your father made the messiest, most imperfect pancakes, but they were made with love, so they tasted better than any Michelin star dish." The real breakthrough came during our first community cooking fair. A young girl brought her family's traditional recipe, not fancy or refined, but full of history. The old Isabella would have sneered. The new Isabella spent hours learning the recipe from her. "This is real cuisine," she said afterward. "Food that tells a story of family and love." Later that evening, as we closed the restaurant, Isabella lingered in the kitchen. "I've been thinking," she said quietly, "about my recipes." "Oh, yes, I'd like to publish them. Not as a fancy cookbook, but as something accessible, teaching people that good food doesn't have to be exclusive." I studied her face, looking for any trace of her old superiority. Found none. "That's a generous offer," I said carefully, "but it would mean sharing your precious techniques with common people." "But food, like love, grows when you share it," she replied, watching the twins clean out their baking station. "I just wish I'd learned that sooner." The twins, who had been pretending not to listen, hugged their grandmother. For the first time ever, Isabella hugged back without worrying about flour on her clothes. "Will you teach us all your recipes?" Sophie asked. "Better," Isabella smiled. "We'll create new ones together and make plenty of messes along the way." She looked at me uncertainly. If that's allowed." I nodded, watching decades of bitterness melt like chocolate. "I think that's exactly what this kitchen needs." As we locked up that night, Alex held up the souffle he had made, slightly lopsided but made with pure joy. "Look, Mama, sometimes the imperfect ones taste the best." "Yes," I agreed, watching Isabella hang up her plain chest coat next to the kids' aprons. "And sometimes people turn out better when they're not trying to be perfect." The restaurant's lights dimmed behind us, but the warmth of the kitchen stayed in our hearts. In the end, it wasn't about Michelin stars or revenge or even fine dining. It was about learning that the best meals aren't served on fine china. They're served with love, acceptance, and maybe a little bit of mess on the side.